Good morning, class. Buenos días a todos. Hoy vamos a aprender un poco sobre los verbos. Today we're learning a little bit about verbs, and this little bit that we're learning is super duper important. So pay super close attention. We're going to be learning about how to take verbs that end with AR and conjugate them. So we're going to take them from the general form, the infinitive, and turn them into the forms that are specific to individuals. Let's go ahead and dive in. Just pay super close attention, follow along with this as we go. Okay, remember that in Spanish, our verbs are, in the infinitive, they come in three types. So we've got AR verbs, ER verbs, and IR verbs, okay? And today, we're going to be taking some time to just talk about AR verbs, okay? We're going to talk about AR verbs and how we can conjugate them. Okay, remember, also, we've shared this before, that the largest group of verbs in Spanish end in AR, okay? So that's why we're focusing on AR to start. It's because most verbs in Spanish are AR verbs. I've got two examples here, nadar, which means to swim, nadar, which means to swim, and then we've also got, of course, bailar, which means to dance, bailar. Okay, so take a moment, and this is going to be do, so make sure you actually do this as I instruct you here. I want you to write 5 more AR verbs in this space right here. Okay, so take a moment, pause the screencast, fill in 5 more AR verbs. So up to now, we've been using verbs in their infinitive form. That's that form that means to something, to walk, to sing, to dance. All those verbs have been in the infinitive form, right? The to verb. So the thing is, we sometimes need to use other forms of the verb, specifically what we would call conjugated forms. And so when we talk about conjugating a verb, we're talking about taking the infinitive and adjusting it so it's personalized. So it's about a person, an individual, rather than just the general form. Okay, so this is called conjugation. It's something you'll talk about at every level of Spanish. Super important and something you just need to know that term for. And I'll show you how to do it now. So the very first step, is going to be to drop the AR ending, leaving something called the stem. Okay, so the first step is going to be isolating the stem. So just as an example here, we've got hablar, and it becomes habl. Habl. Okay, habl is just like it's a part of a word. It's not a word kind of in its own right. But here we'll do another one. We've got cantar. All right, remember that means to sing. The stem, see if you can figure it out on your own before I write it. It's cant, right? I put the dash to indicate that that's an incomplete word. We need something else after it. So this is just the first step. We're just isolating the stem of the AR verb, and we do that by just cutting off the AR. Just cut off the AR. All right, let's look at the next step. Okay, and here you need to add then, after you've identified the stem, you need to add the AR ending. So you're going to add the ending. All right, so this is something you will use all the time. This is something that it's worth practicing and memorizing because you will need it. You'll use it all the time in Spanish. All right, right now, this is just the present tense. Okay, this is just the present tense. We'll learn other tenses at later points in Spanish, but for now, all you need to know is the present tense set of endings. So I'm going to scribble in next to each of these what they're all about. Remember, we've learned these pronouns already. Yo means I. So if we're conjugating a verb for the yo form, we'll add an O to the end. Remember, tu means you, and we'll add an as to the end, as, to the end of a verb to make it conjugated for this. And I'll show you how it all comes together. These are just the endings. I showed you the stem. Now I'm showing you the endings. Then I'll show you them together. For él, ella, and usted, they all get a. Nosotros gets amos. Vosotros gets ais. Pay special attention to that accent mark over ice. And then ellos, ellas, and ustedes all get an as their ending. So let's put this all together. For example, on hablar, that means to speak or to talk. Right? We would take get rid of the AR, so we're left with our stem. And then I'll just give this first one, hablo. We've got our stem there, and then we've got our ending. So hablo is for the yo form, and it means I speak, right? Remember, it's yo hablo, I speak. So then we've got hablas, that's the to form. That means you speak. Habla, now there are three possibilities here. This is where it can start to get a little bit tricky. This could mean he speaks, right? Él habla. Oops, I misspelled speak. He speak. He speaks. She speaks. Or it can mean usted habla. You, formal, speak. You speak. Okay? So let's go over to the other column here on the right. Hablamos, hablamos. So hablamos is we speak. Habláis, again, just notice that accent mark. I'm just going to point it out as much as I need to make sure it's emphasized. Habláis is going to mean y'all speak, right? But only in that kind of, in the vosotros form, which is used in Spain mostly. All right, and then last we've got hablan. This one also has a few possibilities, right? It can mean they speak when we're using ellos or ellas, depending on who we're talking about. And it can mean y'all speak when we're talking about ustedes, right? So those are our different conjugated forms of the verbs, of the verb hablar, all right? So yo hablo, tú hablas, él, ella, usted habla, nosotros hablamos, vosotros habláis, and ustedes and ellos, ellas hablan. Okay, so let's move on from here. All right, this is one of my favorite parts about learning how to conjugate verbs in Spanish. Because the endings always indicate who's doing the action, you sometimes don't need a pronoun to talk about someone or something, right? So take a look at the first example sentence here. I've got hablo inglés. That means I speak English. Oops, I'm going to capitalize the E because that's how we do things here. All right, I speak English. Now think about this for a second. English is obviously inglés. Hablo, though, means I speak. That one word means the two words in English, I speak. You could, if you wanted to, put yo here, but you don't have to, because hablo only matches up with yo. You don't have to put the subject because it's implied. All right, in a similar way, hablas español means do you speak Spanish? It's a question. All right. And then because of the AS ending, we know that the implied subject is tú, right? Tú hablas español. All right. So in many cases, you don't need the subject because it's implied. It's optional. If it makes you feel comfortable, if it helps you understand the sentence that you are saying, by all means, include it. But also, consider playing around with not including it because you don't need it. So if you're feeling like it would help you understand what you're saying, help you feel more comfortable, absolutely use it. If you feel comfortable as we start to do this, consider dropping those subjects. You'll sound more like a native speaker that way. Okay, but that all said, sometimes subject pronouns are used for emphasis or clarification in Spanish. Okay, so here I've got an example sentence. Ella habla inglés y él habla español. So this means she speaks English and, all right, actual word and, he speaks Spanish, right? So sometimes, because notice that habla and habla are the same, because el and ella take the same conjugated form, sometimes we can clarify what we're talking about by including the subject pronouns. Okay, so sometimes they're helpful even when they're not necessary. They can help us clarify or emphasize what we're talking about. So in this sentence, I'm saying she speaks English and he speaks Spanish. It helps us clarify or emphasize what we're talking about here. Okay, one more thing to kind of remember as we're talking about the present tense here. In the present tense, a sentence in Spanish, hablo español, can be translated two ways into English. Either I speak or I am speaking Spanish. Okay? So as you're thinking, there's a lot of translating that goes back and forth at this point in Spanish learning, and in this concept in particular. You're asking yourself, I want to say I'm speaking Spanish. Well, you would say hablo español. If you're like, oh, I want to say I speak Spanish, you would also say hablo español. So we can get these kind of, this form where we've got just the conjugated verb, or we can have this one where we've got our helper verb, and then the progressive is what that's called if you're a grammar nerd like me, right? The progressive form of the verb. Okay, so just so you know, there are two ways to translate this between English and Spanish, right? So hablo can mean I speak or I am speaking. Okay, we're learning about AR verbs, and as you can see here, our friend estar is an AR verb, right? It ends AR. It means to be, right? And it refers to someone or something's location, okay? So, yo estoy en casa. That means I am at home, right? Tú estás en casa. You're also at home, right? Good. So it refers to someone or something's physical location. Where are you? Remember that phrase estar con amigos? We've got the phrase, the word estar in that phrase. And that means to be with friends, right? It's kind of a statement of your location. You're physically with your friends. Okay, but here's the thing. Estar is an AR verb, but it has some irregularities. Okay, it has some irregularities. It has two irregularities. In the yo form, it's irregular, and in some other forms, it has accent marks that are out of the pattern. Let's go ahead and take a look at those irregularities in context, in detail. Okay, so here are all the forms of estar. I'll just say them all for you so you've heard them all. Estoy, estás, está, estamos, estáis, están. All right, I forgot to underline estoy, so I'm going to go back and do that now. Okay, so this comes in that same format, this format that we've been looking at here, where it's so, what I mean by that is this is the yo form, this is the tú form, this is the él, ella, usted form, this is the nosotros form, this is the vosotros form, oops, you can read that hopefully, and this is the ellos, ellas, ustedes form. Okay, so this means I am, this means you are, remember singular you, singular are. This can mean he is, she is, or you, usted, are. This can mean we, this means we are. Estáis means y'all are, right? Remember that this is that form of y'all that's used mostly in Spain. And then this one is they are, or y'all are, in that other form that would be understood just about anywhere in the world. So now here I want to just change colors and highlight how this verb is irregular. So first the yo form, super irregular. It's just out of a format that is it's not, remember that we would normally cross out the A, R, and add an O. Well, it's kind of like that, but it's got a Y at the end too. So it's estoy. And then notice this, if we did that, but we wanted to conjugate for two, this is almost right. It just has an extra accent mark there. Same with the él, ella, usted form. Estamos is normal. Estáis actually is normal. I'm just going to highlight that there is an accent mark there, but it's not out of the pattern. And then están, same thing. It would be perfectly normal, except it's got the accent mark over the A. So it's not too crazy. It's just got some extra accent marks, and the yo form is irregular. But this verb is super important. You'll use it all the time. So I just wanted you to take some time to practice it, or to go over it with you so you can see all the differences there. All right, so this is our last thing. I've got 10 verbs here for you, and I've got the subject and the infinitive. And so I'd like you to conjugate the verb, and then I'd like you to translate it into English. All right, so just do that for the 10 of these, and hand this whole packet in with the subject pronoun that started this handout and your annotated notes. Hand that all into this assignment, and then you're all set for today. Thanks for your time. Gracias. Adios.